everybody and welcome back to another video on my channel. It is Kevin here, or Kev, or Minis by Kev. You can call me whatever you'd like. So spooky season's coming up, and throughout the month of October I'm gonna be doing all scary miniatures. So before I got to that point, I wanted to make something that I've been working on for a really long time. I guess I wanted to finish it. Back in February, I started making a mini skee ball machine because when I was growing up, I'm from the Midwest, I'm from Illinois, and I used to go to this place called Indiana Beach. Well, at Indiana Beach, they had a whole room of skee ball machines. I don't think they have them anymore. But it was my mom's favorite game, and she told me it was my grandma's favorite game, and I never got to meet my grandma because she died when I was very young. So skee ball to me always just reminds me of my mom and my grandma. And so I decided to make the skee ball machine. And then it kind of fell off because of the move across country and everything, but I'm finally gonna finish the skee ball machine. So I'm gonna try something in this video I've never done before, which is playing with dollhouse lighting. Now, it's not the traditional lighting with the two-pronged and the strips. It's something I saw on Amazon. I don't remember where I saw this. I might have just Googled dollhouse lighting, and I came up with this thing that came in this nondescript box, and it's like little lighting that like hooks up via battery and everything. And it came with like 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights? I don't even remember now. But I decided to try and make it light up. Now, I haven't been making miniatures for that long. It's been a couple years, but I am really new when it comes to lighting. I don't know how to do any of it. So we're gonna try that in this video. But for now, I need to get started on actually making the skee ball machine. We're finishing it. And some of these clips are very old. They're back from February, but I have recorded the entire process from start to finish, hopefully, by the time you're watching this video. So let's go ahead and turn around the camera and we'll get started on the skee ball machine. So starting out here, I'm just showing you that I bought one of these giant sketchbooks at Michael's that could fit entire 12th scale miniatures in it. So I'm just showing you how I sketched out the side and a top-down view so I could kind of understand the slant that the back wall would be on the skee ball machine. Almost this entire skee ball machine is made out of mat board. There's some other materials, but it's mostly mat board. And here you can see I'm measuring it out and then cutting it out. I struggle with getting straight lines, so I use a ruler when I am making the lines, and I'm using a ruler when I'm cutting out the lines because I want them to be as straight as possible, but even with the ruler, to be honest, they often come out not straight. Trying to figure out how the skee ball machine was going to look and be constructed took a lot of time. It took a lot of mat board pieces cut into a lot of shapes. I would have, in theory, liked the entire side to be one big piece, but I could not get it cut out to look correct and for them to match. So I did a couple different pieces, and I thought it might just be easier to kind of piece it together like a puzzle. It gave me a lot of struggles, though, because of that. My biggest worry was with all of the different pieces that it would look out of scale or warp, because if you've never worked with mat board before, it can warp really easily, especially when painting it. Luckily, I have these 1, 2, 3 blocks that help me keep really right angles, especially when making these little tiny channels that the skee balls come down in. They're already pretty small in real life, so when you're trying to make them in miniature, they're extremely tiny. The 1, 2, 3 blocks also came in handy because if again, you've never worked with mat board, sometimes glue can also warp it. So I wanted to use enough glue to hold it, but not warp the piece. Luckily, these 1, 2, 3 blocks helped keep them in place while drying because tacky glue can sometimes have a long drying period. So if you don't have 1, 2, 3 blocks, I highly recommend picking up a set. Or 2, I really want more. With the help of the 1, 2, 3 blocks, I went ahead and got both of the channels created. As you can see here, again, these were very tricky. They're very small. And because I knew that these would be mostly hidden, I did use a lot of glue internally once I had the structure. I just used tons and tons of glue. And then here you can see that I cut out the back puzzle piece, as I'm referring to it, to make the back of the skee ball machine. Using the sketch that I made in my sketchbook, I knew how tall the machine would be, so I cut out this piece for the back, which honestly was almost 12th scale door size. Well, I guess it was only half, but in the moment, I thought it was a door size, but it's a little smaller. After I double checked it to make sure it was the right height, I went ahead and glued it and used my trusty 1, 2, 3 block to make sure that it was the right angle again, because I knew that this had so many moving pieces, it needed to be very exact. So I went ahead and put one in front and one behind to hold it in its exact spot and not move even a little bit. And if I'm going to be really honest with you, that's as far as I got living on the West Coast. That's as far as I got as of February. Everything from here on out is in my studio, and yeah, I didn't get much done. But here I am I did a paper template, so I knew how wide the channels were on the sides where the skee balls go that I could cut out in mat board. But I wanted to do a paper template first, though I didn't waste any mat board because mat board can be expensive if you're wasting it over and over again. And here I'm just showing you close up where that piece I cut out is going to go. And as you can see here, I printed out a picture of one of the skee ball machines I was basing mine off of, and I was just showing you where on the skee ball I'm working. After I had the channel the right size, I needed to cut out the little inlet where you grab the skee balls from in the skee ball machine. It's just kind of hard to see in this clip what I'm doing. Rest assured, that's what I'm doing. I'm making the little inlet. What's funny about this clip is I wanted to make the center channel that the skee ball actually goes down because it needs to be at a slight angle. It needs to be one long piece. But what's funny is I actually thought I made this piece out of cardstock. Remember now watching this clip and looking back that I made it out of this Girl Scout cookie box because I knew that the chipboard would be stronger, be able to take paint, be able to bend slightly more. But I thought I made it out of cardstock. So it's just funny looking at this now and knowing that I was completely wrong. The issue with the center part where the skee balls roll is that it would droop in the middle unless I made these little skeleton supports, which is what I'm showing here. And I wanted to make 3, one for each side, so that way the sides wouldn't droop, and then one for the middle, so that way the middle one would hold up, so there'd be no sagging, hopefully. A little bit of a spoiler alert, there is a little bit of sagging, a little bit of drooping if you look really closely, because I did end up painting the chipboard, but I think it would have completely fallen apart had I not made the center support as well as the 2 side supports. So going back, if I did this again, maybe I would make 2 more. Maybe I would just make a lot of them. But I needed to cut it very precisely, as you can see here, so that way the rounding of the little ramp at the end matched perfectly with what I was envisioning. And then here you can just see me gluing them and putting them in, so that way when I put the ramp in, it'll hopefully sit perfectly. I'm doing this voiceover and I've decided I'm going to leave this in. I'm going to leave this in to show you that I did in fact make this out of cardstock. I don't know why I made that version out of Girl Scout cookie box, the chipboard. I might have thought I was going to go with that. I might have thought it was stronger, but for some reason in the end, I don't know if I lost it. But I ended up going with the cardstock, and I couldn't cut this all out, but I just think it's funny. It's sometimes you're working on things and you literally don't remember what you're working with, what you're doing, and you know, as long as you get to the end product, you know, done is better than perfect. Here I'm showing you what I'm making, which is the back slanted board of the skee ball where the actual balls go. And this I'm going to show you I ended up making twice. The first time was an epic fail because I knew that this hole punch would be the perfect size for a skee ball. I measured it out, and in 12th scale, it's a perfect little hole punch. The issue is that it can only go so far into the mat board, which I wasn't thinking. So then I tried a single hole punch that I was holding in my hand. That also didn't go far enough in. So then I tried cutting them out with an X-Acto knife. And unfortunately, because these holes are so small and close together, when I tried using the X-Acto knife, it completely collapsed. The mat board just could not take the close cuts so close together. And unfortunately, my original one ended up failing. So I made another one where I drew out exactly where the circles would go, and I decided I was gonna just draw black circles to imitate circles because unfortunately I knew that they're just too close together and it could not handle it being drilled out or cut out. But instead of dwelling on it, I decided I was gonna move on and make a new piece, which is this little bracket right here is where the score is on a skee ball machine. I had this planned out on my sketch, so I knew exactly what size it needed to be, but I still measured the skee ball to make sure it would fit. Because sometimes when you're making things shift slightly, so I went ahead and made it so it would fit the skee ball machine exactly. And I made this little frame because this is where the lighting's gonna come in later. And at this stage, I started to get stressed about how much I needed to get done still. So I took a page out of Bentley House Miniatures book, and I went ahead and made a list, kind of all the things I needed to get done still. I pointed it out to all the different parts of the machine I still needed to make and wrote them down, and it helped. It was still a little overwhelming, but it helped. First and foremost here, we are not going to judge what my palette looks like. I'm not good at cleaning these off, so please just don't judge me. This is just how I live my life. I'm not sure if anyone else is like this, but when you're making a miniature, sometimes I just am looking at it, I'm like, it needs some color. I need to finally start painting. I need it to start looking like what the end product is going to be, or I'll never finish this because right now it just looks like a pile of paper glued together, which is what it is, right? So sometimes I'm just like, I need to start painting. I need to paint something, which I decided to paint this little gutter right here. I also did this because I knew I wanted to put skee balls inside where they are in the machine before you pay. They're in a little slot, and when you pay, they come running down. Well, I wanted them to be in that slot. To do that, I needed to paint this first because I could not glue it down until the inside was done. So I painted this first, and then I moved on to painting the inside of the channel, because when you look down in it, I can't have it be bare paper. You'll see some stuff around the skee ball machine. So I painted it the dark red that is on the outside of the machine as well. I was really worried when it came to painting this center piece of paper, because I know that if you do too much paint too quickly, things warp. No matter how much skeleton I put underneath it to keep its shape, I knew there was a chance it could warp if I used too much paint too quickly. So I did these really thin coats. The issue being is, as you can see, that when you do thin coats, it's very light, and this needed to be very, very dark and saturated. So I ended up doing, I think, 6 or 7 or 8 coats of this, and I still touched up other parts of it even more than that. But the whole thing got at least 7 to 8 coats total. And even then, it probably could have stood to have another one, to be honest. In this picture, this is after 1 coat. I went ahead and did the sides as well, but I left the left channel blank because that's going to be yellow later, and I knew it would be easy to paint it from white to yellow rather than red to yellow. While I was painting things, I went ahead and decided to do the frame front of this yellow, and as you're about to see in this next clip, I actually must have lost a clip somewhere in here because I went from this to this, which I just painted the sides, made the little printable part, and glued it in there. That's how I got to this. I don't know how I missed those steps. But while all of that paint dried, I decided to go ahead and try and do the skee balls. Now, these are wooden beads I bought, and these were pretty expensive considering how small they are and how little amount I got, but I got them to put in this little channel right here. So that way, again, it'll look like how they look in the machine before you pay. They'll just sit in there waiting to come down and have a good time. You can't really see here because they're so tiny, and I will show you later, but gluing them in here was incredibly difficult. I was getting glue everywhere, but luckily overgluing is my middle name, so it didn't bother me that much. While that was drying, I found this little car at the Dollar Tree, and this is the only thing I could find that had a similar light to what's on top of a skee ball machine. When you win, the little light goes off, it spins and makes a noise. This is the only thing I could find that was even remotely close to what I was looking for. And because of that, I got it. And I cut out a little tiny hole in here using a hole punch and a hand drill, so that way I could put the light in here, and this is what's going to be lit up later. Here I'm just showing you some little detail work because this may just be a me thing or it could be an everybody thing, but I'm just letting you know, if this is you, you're not alone. When I'm painting 2 different colors, I sometimes will splatter paint, get it where I don't want it. I'm a very messy painter. I wish I was better, but I'm not. So if you are like me and you get paint everywhere it's not supposed to be, get yourself a detail brush set like this, and let me tell you, it really comes in handy. It really comes in handy when you're trying to fix little tiny mistakes, because I make a lot of them. So I just wanted to show you that this is real time. Took a lot of little tiny detail paint strokes to fix this. After inserting the light from the little tow truck, I went ahead and painted that, and then I added it here so you could see the complete box, fully painted, fully done, and ready to be lit up and attached. I know I have such amazing camera work and angles that you're not really sure what the subject of this clip is, but let me tell you, it is the backboard. It is time to finally start making those little hoops that you roll the balls into. I didn't show myself making these because, to be honest, they were so tiny it would have been incredibly difficult to show, but I took cardstock and I cut it out at 1/8 of an inch and then rolled it into these little circles and glued them shut to be the exact size that I need them for the backboard. But what was even harder than that was drawing the little 100 on here. It was incredibly tiny. I won't lie, once I was to this point and it was done, and even now that the whole project is done, I'm still not sure this is completely accurate to scale. I think they should be bigger, but when I measured out the skee balls, this is the size that they should be. It just looks a little strange, and I think that it maybe should have been bigger. But after that, I moved on to gluing on this other panel because I was finally done with the skee balls and the painting, so I knew that I could add this and it could be done, and it would be one more thing to mark off the checklist. Now it was time to do the most difficult part of the skee ball machine, which I'm showing you here is the cage that goes around the skee ball. And if you've ever seen a skee ball machine before, you know it's to prevent kids from running up and throwing the balls in the little holes. But you know, if you're a kid, you probably done it. You're not supposed to do it, but we've all done it. But it was the most difficult part of the skee ball machine. By far, the most difficult part. I started here trying to trace the shape so that way I could make the side part of the little fencing, but this honestly didn't end up working. The material I decided to work with to make the cage just was not great. So this whole thing right here, me making this, seemed like a really good idea, but in the end did not end up working out. If you've been here a while, you might recognize this wire stuff that I have. I don't honestly know where I got this. I'm not even really sure what it's from, what it's supposed to be used for, but I use this in my vending machine to make the coils that hold the snacks in. And I decided to use this as the bars that hold the caging up, because if you look at a skee ball machine, they have these bars, like the thick bars to hold the shape, and I needed to recreate those with something. In retrospect, I probably would have done this with something thicker and sturdier because this stuff does bend quite a bit. I took my hand drill and found the closest drill I had to the size of the cage batting that I was using, so I could drill into this just a tiny bit so I could get it started by gluing it into that. I ended up using hot glue later, but originally I tried using tacky glue, and it just didn't hold quick enough, so I ended up using hot glue, which ended up completely making a mess all over this project in the end. I wouldn't recommend using hot glue for something like this, but I was getting a little impatient towards the end, which is on me. It's my fault. But in the end, when I moved away from tacky glue and moved over to hot glue instead, it did hold, and I made this shape right here, which was good enough for me at this point. I realized that I forgot to make the silver stripe that goes down both of the gutters, and I knew that if I didn't do this now, it would be more difficult to do later because the caging would get in the way. So I decided to take my silver Posca pen, and I did the best I can to do a straight line down both of the gutters. I added the other cage part at the top, but then decided that I wanted to do some of the other finishing touches, such as add this little silver part to the end that they put on skee ball machines to protect the end parts because they're made out of wood with this metal. It was pretty simple. I just made a template and then I colored it in with the same silver that I used on the gutters to simulate the metal sheen. After it was all colored in, I went ahead and glued it right here. It took a lot of glue because I'm an overgluer, so I probably didn't need that much glue. But I'm an overgluer, so I went ahead and added a bunch. And then I had to hold it down because the paper, for some reason, didn't want to stick to this paint very well. Usually I don't have that issue unless I'm gluing to something very plasticky with the shine. So I just had to hold it down for a little bit longer and it ended up taking hold. It was finally time to add the actual cage netting stuff, which it was time for another trip to the Dollar Tree. Well, they were all the same trip. And I got these strainers because I thought that these would work perfectly. But what didn't work perfectly was my ability to actually record what I was doing because I somehow skipped over all of the cage process. What I did is I held it up to the frame that I had and traced it on a piece of paper, used that, cut out the metal netting, and then hot glued it to the frame. The issue with this is that there's a lot of hot glue residue that I now can't get off, and I used too much. So it does look a little globby, it's not perfect, and I do regret using hot glue. And the strainer, while looking really nice, did start to basically fall apart when I cut it. The little tiny metal pieces became like slivers that I was stepping on. They were stabbing me. It was not a great time. So would I suggest this? Not necessarily. It looks good, but you could probably do something that wasn't metal and wouldn't hurt if you stepped on it. What I'm showing here in this clip, though, is me actually making the holes in the bottom with my hand drill, add the dowel rod to the back for the back feet, and then I made a little box for the front feet. They do look different on skee ball machines. I'm not entirely quite sure. Maybe one's to hold all the coins at the front because it is more box shaped and it does have a lock on it. So I think that's why they have this box shape in the front instead of the stick dolly type legs in the back. Everything else was done at this point on this project except for one thing, the lighting. The thing that I was not dreading, but really nervous about from the very beginning. I don't know anything about electricity or batteries or lighting. Nothing. That's just, I don't know anything. So I got this kit on Amazon, and all you have to do is connect one to the red wire and one to the black wire. But what they don't tell you is it has to be a specific one. One of them works, one of them does not. I figured out which one it was by doing what I'm doing here on screen, where I was just connecting them until it lit up. And then I actually took a little bit of black paint and painted one of the wires just a little bit, so I knew that was the one that needed to connect to the black wire. I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like if one specifically needed to touch one, you would put a little bit of color on one of them so you knew which one went to what. But whatever. In the end, I figured it out. It worked. This is not a difficult kit. You just have to take the 2 wires on each end and twist them together and then put batteries in it, and it works. And honestly, for a first-time lighting adventure, this was ideal for me. It was easy for the most part. And yeah, it was a little difficult sometimes to get the wires to twist around each other and stay twisted together. And I thought about maybe like using some kind of glue or something to hold them together, but I wasn't sure if that would still let the light, electricity, whatever it is, conduct. So I didn't want to alter it too much. I drilled a hole into the back and put the black and red wires there because I knew that the box would cover this up. And unfortunately, it doesn't look the best in the back, but I didn't really have an option because of how skee ball machines are built. There wasn't any room for this internal wiring if I wanted it to be working. So unfortunately, that's what it looks like, but you don't notice that from the front, and that's really what matters to me. Here's what I was referring to where it was kind of difficult to get the wires to wrap around each other. I actually did take off a little bit of the casing, thinking that if I exposed more of the wire, it would be easier to twist them around each other. But what I noticed is when you take off a little bit of the casing, the wires on the inside aren't as solid. They're almost like individual little wires all stuffed together, and only the end part is fused together. So what I did is I actually twisted all those little wires inside together and then twisted that around the white wire. That sounds confusing, but I honestly think that if you were to go out and buy this and look at it, it's not difficult. I just twisted them and I did the best I could, and for now it's holding. I don't know if in the future what might happen. I might have to reopen it if something were to happen to fix this, but I think that I got a good connection on these for now. And this is when I realized I didn't make the ticket giver thing that gives you tickets when you win. So I had to go ahead and build that out of paper. It's not the most sturdy. I think I might recreate this, but I wanted to get it done because, again, better done than perfect. After I was done with the lighting, I glued the back on and it all worked. The light came on. I was shocked that I got the lighting wiring correct, and this is it. It's done. I'm finally done with the skee ball machine, and I apologize that I don't have some good glamour shots. I'm still trying to figure out my studio, what kind of setup I'm going for, how I'm going to show my finished miniatures, things like that. But I do have this little Lazy Susan I got from the dollar spot at Target, so you know, everything's coming up Minis by Kev. So for now, this is what we got. In the future, fingers crossed. But I'm happy with it. There are some things I would change about it, but overall, I think it turned out super cute, and I will enjoy having it on my shelf. Again, that is it for this. The skee ball machine is finally done. It took me 7 months, over 7 months to finish it because I procrastinated and then I moved across country, but it's done. And it can finally go up on a shelf somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where because I think it looks better displayed forward rather than sideways, but I don't have a shelf that sticks out this far from the wall, so I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do with it yet. But I'm happy with it. I really like it. It's my first foray into lighting and it still works. It hasn't fallen apart yet. It's been a couple days. I'm just all around happy with it. There is a couple of things I would change. I knew that hot glue could gunk up, but it really got bad in this project. I don't even want to show you up close, but where the fencing meets the frame of the netting, the hot glue is really bad. I tried using tacky glue, but the tacky glue did not hold fast enough, and because of the material this is made out of, it's woven, so when I cut into it, a lot of the weave was falling out, and that's when I was getting the metal splinters everywhere. So I had to get it to hold fast, and I think that that was honestly, it was a learning moment. It was a learning moment. I won't do that again. Hot glue, while is nice for a quick hold, can gunk up. So besides that though, I really enjoyed my creation. I'm really happy with it. And took a lot of work. That's why this video is so late this week. It was supposed to come out on Tuesday. This is probably not coming out until Friday now. Just a lot of time has gone into making this, editing the video, all of that. That's it for this week. I will have a video coming out early next week. It's actually the miniature I'm making for it. It's almost done. I was making it simultaneously with this while waiting for this one to dry. So that'll be out probably around like Wednesday of next week. We're starting spooky season next week because it is October, and I'm gonna have a video out every week, all spooky, scary, creepy, all of the above. So I'm very excited for October. I love October, I love fall. That's it for this week. So if you like me or you like miniatures, make sure you hit that subscribe button below, and I will see you all in my next video. Goodbye.